Welcome, everyone. Mrs. Early, Mary Early, are you here? Raise your hand. Mrs. Early, right over there. There you are. Come on up front. Yep, we have a seat for you up front. Mrs. Early is the surviving spouse of Richard Early, who was a longtime prior veteran service officer. He is the president of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 116, for probably since its inception. So we have a spot for you right up front, Mrs. Early. How awesome is it to fill up this hall? Yeah. On a beautiful day. You could be out raking leaves at my house. We'll talk later. All right, so I'm Rick Couture, Director of Veteran Services for the City of Leominster, retired First Sergeant Marines. And what we are going to do today is we are going to honor a bunch of veterans. And that's what we do on Veterans Day in the City of Leominster. So we're going to start. We're going to post our colors down up front. Then we're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem, and then some other stuff. So the highlight is when the flags come marching down, as per protocol, if you're able to stand, please stand. So at this time, post the colors. Detail. Forward. Forward. Face. At this time, we will have our Cub Scout Pack 16 come up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Some of them, it's their first year scouting, so we want to thank them for their interest in scouting. How's that? A little shot? This is our future leaders right there. There are 3 young ladies as part of Pack 16, so it's amazing that they're going to get to grow up from the beginning all the way to Eagle Scout for the females now. That's amazing. All right, what we're going to do right now, so I do owe the band an apology. So We didn't plan on a vocal singer, so I don't know anything about music. I know to turn on my radio. So I went to an assembly at St. Leo's School, and this young lady did an amazing rendition of the national anthem. So I said, oh, I take the initiative, right? In 3 years as a Marine. I said, oh, she'll be a great singer for Veterans Day. Well, apparently you're supposed to practice with the band and stuff like that. So my apologies to the band. But you're going to thank me in the end. So we are going to have right now from St. Leo's 7th grade, and I'm not going to say her name, I'm not going to do it justice, Teresa Nakora. Come on up, Teresa.
Present.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
See what I mean?
Go ahead, read that.
Again, my apologies to the band. All right, retire the colors.
Right shoulder. Right. Over.
At this time, we're going to have a prayer from our VFW member, American Legion member, AMBETS member, Richard Girouard.
Today, we honor the veterans, the worthy veterans, the men and women who gave their best when they were called upon to serve their country. We pray that with them, you will bless them and for all their unselfish time and continued struggle to protect our freedom and our safety for all our country's heritage, one and for all. Amen.
fortunate here in Leominster. I work throughout the Commonwealth with other veteran service officers, and we have a Leominster Veterans Center that hosts the VFW, the American Legion, the DAV, the AMVETS, Vietnam Veterans of America, our Blue Star Mothers, and it's the envy of all other cities and towns in Massachusetts. And we could not have done it without the support of our mayor and our city council. So with that being said, Leominster's mayor, very super supportive of our veterans, Dean Medler.
I'm very superstitious because I always wanted to be able to speak at 11:11 on 11:11. See if you wait long enough, your wish comes true. I just asked David Cormier, President of the City Council, to come up and introduce our city councils. Veterans, would you please stand? Today is all about you. Every day is about you. Please stand for us. And every one of them young. 93 years old. Can anybody beat 93 years old today? Veteran? Anybody beat you? He's got seniority. David Cormier, President of the City Council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Today is our Marine veteran, Tate, and veteran Frank Ardinger, Mark Bonanza, Elaine Lee, Bill Brady, Pauline Cormier, Susan Chalice Zephyr, and Gold Star wife, Claire Frida. And thank you to all of our veterans for being here. It's our pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you. Thank you.
The purpose of this morning as we stand in front of all these veterans is precious. How precious every single one of them are. Precious to them as veterans, but for the work they do in our community. These aren't veterans who tell a lot of stories or want to be recognized, but they're veterans who constantly are giving back until they can't give any longer. It's quite an amazing thing to see it. And look at the crowd today. I mean, every year I keep hearing how people aren't attending these kinds of ceremonies, but ours just keep getting larger and larger. I want to call out Prisoner of War wife. Would you stand, please? Yes, please. Stand for us. Prisoner of War wife. Thank you. We lift the husband, we lift the home right every single year. For us on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Thank you. Our Blue Star Mothers. You know, Blue Star Mothers, we never heard very much about Blue and Gold Star Mothers until Afghanistan and Iraq. And then Afghanistan and Iraq went away, but they did. So, Blue and Gold Star Mothers, thank you for your sacrifice. Please stand up so we can recognize you. Is our principal here from Leominster High School? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new principal at the high school, named Joshua Romano. He's now a deputy brigadier commander, serving the 1st Battalion, 101st Regional Training Institute, and he's our principal. Welcome. You know, the chaplain said this morning on the Common, don't forget the warriors, the wounded warriors. And I was thinking about a kid that grew up on Middle Street. I'll leave his name out for the conversation today because I didn't check with him to say whether or not I can use his name. But I remember him, like Ron Frieder and many, the Hills of Davis, being wounded and killed in action. And then living another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So many of our veterans have suffered and continue to suffer, but every day get up and do their absolute best. So don't forget that. We have an obligation. It's not a frill or a luxury to take care of our veterans. We have an obligation and a responsibility. When we send them on to war, we send them on to serve them, and where they are in this world, we have a responsibility to take care of them. So I thank you, because this is such a community that supports their veterans. Richard Goldor, our veterans director, known all over the state, Jolene, everyone, I mean, please stand. I mean, we got the best of the best for our area here. We try to give awards every year. We made a new one, Mrs. Hill, because we believe the legacy should live on. And I was looking at some old pictures, Vinnie Apollonia died from 5 pounds. Put on a bunch of pictures on social media this morning. And most of those that were in the pictures were gone. And I thought, precious, how precious we were to have them in our company every single day of the week. So thank you, wherever you are in this world, wherever you are today, some not able to make it here, we can't thank you enough. Seriously, I know you don't want to be thanked, and I know you're not here to be thanked, but I watch what's going on around the world, and I just think to myself, how important our freedom is. Every day becomes more and more important. And to hear that 7th grade young lady sing every single word with passion and meaning, she gets it. She gets it. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor, for all your support. Who has a program? All right, don't worry about it. We're not going to follow it. Congressman McGovern was due to speak. He had an emergency. Hopefully he's working on emergency legislation to make the Marine Corps birthday a federal holiday. I'm not really sure if that's what he's doing, but he couldn't make it. But there is no bigger supporter in Congress than Congressman McGovern. His assistant here, Eladia, is here representing him. And thank you, Eladia, for all you do for our veterans and the community. So we are fortunate to have this year as a guest speaker the Sergeant Major of the Massachusetts Army National Guard. And that's a big deal because this is the senior enlisted leader of all forces in Massachusetts that make up the Army National Guard. So Sergeant Major Campbell has 40 years total Guard service. Think about that. Who here's not even 40? For this meeting, 40 years, 2 tours in the Iraq theater. He grew up as an aircraft maintenance specialist. He was a senior advisor to the U.S. Pacific Command. He taught at the Sergeant Major Academy. So this is a soldier's Sergeant Major. So Sergeant Major Campbell, come on up.
Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to thank Mr. Couture, Mayor Mazzarella, and the City of Leominster for inviting me here today to honor our veterans. But before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge the rendition of the national anthem this morning. She was phenomenal. I'd just like to offer her one more round of applause. For all the veterans in the audience, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So when she came off the stage, she did so well that I reached into my pocket to give her one of my personal challenge coins. So, what that means is if she shows any of you veterans that coin today, you owe her a cookie, a cupcake, a hot chocolate, or something. Right? Outstanding job. I'd like to acknowledge the representative of Congressman McGovern's office, State Representative Natalie Higgins, the Leominster City Council, our Gold and Blue Star families. Thank you again for attending today to honor our veterans. A little history. At the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month in the year 1918, after 4 years of war and 20 million casualties, an armistice was signed, ending hostilities in Europe, and brought to a conclusion what became known as the War to End All Wars. It was that following year that President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the first Armistice Day on November 11, 1919, with these words: "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory." So originally, the celebration included parades, public meetings, followed by a 2-minute suspension of business at 11 a.m. Our wartime allies, Great Britain and France, celebrated their own version of Armistice Day as Remembrance Day, with an annual silent observation to honor their veterans of World War I. As it turned out, World War I was not the war to end all wars, and in the decades that followed, American service members have been repeatedly called to serve. After World War II, Armistice Day became a tribute to veterans of all wars, and in 1954, the United States designated November 11th as Veterans Day to honor veterans of all U.S. wars. In the years that followed, succeeding generations of American service members have served, trained, fought, and died in defense of American freedom wherever and whenever called upon to do so, without hesitation and without complaint. Today, more than 6 decades after the declaration of the first Veterans Day in the United States of America, there are over 21 million men and women in America who qualify as veterans. They represent all conflicts in which American service members have fought and died. Here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there are approximately 385,000 men and women who qualify as U.S. veterans. And so here in Leominster today, we join communities across the nation to continue that tradition of honoring and thanking our military veterans. This yearly ritual means so much more than just a day off from school, parade through town, and special sales. Veterans Day is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to acknowledge our neighbors who have served. It's an opportunity to learn from their experience in meaning of duty, honor, and selfless service. It is an opportunity that we must not squander. With each passing year, our elder veterans from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, they grow older and their numbers dwindle. My challenge to all of us is to ensure that they know our gratitude while they are still with us. Additionally, there are thousands of military veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan campaigns. They live and work in every community across the Commonwealth, and many continue to serve in the Massachusetts National Guard and the other reserve components. They are our police officers, our firefighters, our teachers, our principals, our doctors, and private business owners. They are our friends and neighbors who bring to our civic life their experience of military service. And their example teaches us all the true meaning of patriotism and service. We, the citizens of this great Commonwealth, can take pride in the fact that more than any other state in the nation, veterans are honored every day, not just on Veterans Day. Massachusetts veterans receive a welcome home bonus from the Commonwealth for their service abroad. Veterans receive hiring preference in state and municipal employment. Under Massachusetts law, the Commonwealth, along with city and town governments, provide financial assistance for qualifying low-income veterans for food, shelter, clothing, housing supplies, and medical care. Massachusetts has created a register for veterans who have been exposed to burn pit hazards to ensure that they are informed and they receive the assistance that they need applying for federal benefits under the recently passed Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson honoring our promises to address comprehensive toxics act. Recently passed legislation here on Beacon Hill is the Massachusetts Medal of Fidelity. The Medal of Fidelity is to be presented to the next of kin of a service member or veteran who has died as a result of a service-connected post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition resulting from a service-connected traumatic brain injury, or a service-connected disease, condition, or injury that is directly related to their exposure to harmful toxins, herbicides, agents, or other materials. This is the only military award in the country that honors the families of veterans whose death is service-connected. Our American veterans are the embodiment of values that have made our nation the greatest and most free in the history of the world. Their service has defended our nation and ensured that our communities, our institutions, and our families can live and prosper with freedom. They are our nation's strongest and greatest asset. It was not sophisticated weaponry or advanced technology that made our military the strongest and most victorious in the world. It was and still remains the spirit of our military service members. Their spirit of strength and honor that we've inherited from the veterans today is what we honor today and every Veterans Day. In closing, I'd like to leave you with a quote from President John F. Kennedy, who once said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for granting me the honor of speaking today. To those of you in the audience who have answered the call and sworn to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, I say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for paving the way for me and those that I still serve with today. May God bless our nation's veterans. May God bless this great Commonwealth. And now and forever, may God bless the United States of America.
You don't normally hear a first sergeant telling a sergeant major what to do, but today you do. Sergeant Major, we have a pen from Pine Grove Cemetery. There's a tree outside Black Walnut, oldest in the Commonwealth, so the story goes. And a limb came down and he gave pens. So this is going to be the finest pen, and it's over 175 Revolutionary War soldiers are buried in Pine Grove Cemetery. So, from the city of Leominster. So the Sergeant Major was talking about the Medal of Fidelity. So Massachusetts already gives a Medal of Liberty for those that are killed while on active duty. And this Medal of Fidelity came about because a lot of us wrote to the State House and we tried to get that medal for our widows that died as a result of the husbands from Agent Orange. So Mrs. Legay, they're presenting 4 of those medals today at the State House. And Mrs. Legay is one of them. And she chose to be here instead with us. So the good news for Mrs. Legay and about 100 other surviving spouses is in May, Leominster is going to organize a ceremony, and hopefully we get buy-in from the Mass National Guard, but we're going to honor here in Leominster all of our Gold Star wives if their husband died from a service-connected death, and we have at least 100 of them in Leominster. So we're going to do that in May. So you'll have to wait a few more months. All right, at this time, we're going to have our representatives from the Vietnam Veterans, Chapter 116, And Mrs. Khalil from, and her family come up for a presentation from the Vietnam veterans, to the Vietnam Veterans of America.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Almost afternoon. Thank you for being here today to honor and celebrate the valor of our local veterans. I want to start by thanking each of our veterans here today for your service and sacrifice, and I'd also like to take a moment of silence to honor our veterans who have departed. When I was a student at the College of the Holy Cross, I was a recipient of the Vietnam Veterans Chapter 116 Scholarship. It was a moment of great pride for me as the daughter of a Vietnam veteran to receive the scholarship and attend the presentation with my dad yearly. Nothing brought him more joy than bridging his passion for education and his cherished experience as a captain in the United States Army together. This scholarship allowed us the opportunity to celebrate both and allowed me to see a little bit more into the world he experienced in Vietnam. He spoke of his military service with great pride, and he instilled the values of respecting our nation and its protectors, all of you, in me. However, it was often hard for me to feel like I had a clear picture of what he went through, because of course it was difficult for him to retrace his memories in Vietnam at times. From what I do know, my father was a recipient of the Army Commendation Medal, and he was a Bronze Star veteran as well. He often took on high-risk solo missions into villages in attempts to negotiate with the Viet Cong and encourage locals to trust American soldiers. When he returned to the United States, he continued serving. He served as a city councilor on multiple political campaigns, as an educator at local universities, an attorney for over 50 years, a therapist, and an amazing father and husband, but above all, he served each day as a good neighbor. He was dedicated to his faith and to enhancing the lives of those around him with a simple smile and a thoughtful conversation. Everyone learned something from him with every word he spoke. My father's service to the bettering of this world resulted in our ability to offer a donation to the scholarship I received today. It's funny how the world continues to bless those who devote their lives to giving, even after they depart. My father was the acting attorney on a board of a nonprofit called the Neighborhood Development Collaborative, focused on finding and building affordable housing across the United States. He would travel yearly with the board to plan housing development with the goal of addressing one of the largest issues plaguing our communities across the country. Between the efforts of the collaborative and our family, we are blessed to contribute $50,000 to the Vietnam Veterans Chapter 116 Scholarship Fund in honor of my sweet father, Captain Paul Michael Khalil. Giving back to this chapter and this community felt natural and felt like what my father would want to do himself. I thank each of you for allowing me to have glimpses into my father's world through receiving this scholarship in the past, and I'm grateful that other children and grandchildren in our community will get to experience the same with the cherished veterans within their families. Thank you to the Neighborhood Development Collaborative, the Leominster Vietnam Veterans Leominster Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 116, our family, friends, and all of you, citizens of this great city who have traveled to share this moment with us. My dad would hope that this money will fruitfully contribute to assisting young adults on their path to achieving their dreams and educational goals going forward so that our youth can continue to shape the world we live in for the better, for their own. God bless you all. God bless you, Daddy. I'm certain you're smiling down on all of us today, and I'm so grateful to be able to be here and present this $50,000 check to the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 116.
Good day, everybody. I'm Darrell Hopkins, President of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 116. Today, here with me is Dan Joseph, Treasurer, and John Tate, the First Vice President. Thank you, gentlemen, for your hard work during my absence to make today possible. On behalf of the members of Fire Base 116, Vietnam Veterans of America, we thank the family of Captain Paul Girouard for the generous donation to the Leominster High School Scholarship. Would all of the chapter please rise and give a hearty thank you to the family. Chapter 116. We have a few. This trust fund was started several decades ago, but has been slowly increasing because we were funding scholarships at the same time. Your donation to the fund will bring the principal over the top of our original goal. As we go forward, our member numbers will be diminishing to the point where the trust fund will become the primary source of the scholarship awards. This trust fund will continue into perpetuity and ensure that the Vietnam veterans will never be forgotten, including your husband and father, Paul Kelly. Today, we are pleased to announce that one of the scholarships given each year will be named for the late Paul Kelly, Captain in the U.S. Army, Vietnam veteran, and a member of Fire Base 116. Again, we thank you, the Girouard family, for this generous gift. We also have a presentation we'd like to make to the family. Thanks, John, for his Navy connections. He has a flag here that was flown above the USS Constitution. John would like to present the flag and a certificate from the commander of the USS Constitution.
Would you young ladies take the heavy lifting? I just want everybody to know that this is a special day for these folks, a special day.
We can give you joy.
I just want everybody to know that this is a special day for our post, and we hope it's a special day for the ladies from the little family. And by the way, it's kind of a unique time to do this, because they're all ladies, and the skipper of Old Ironsides is the first female captain of that ship.
And before we get done here, I'd also like to present the Certificate of Appreciation from the Vietnam Veterans of America to the family. In recognition of your efforts and outstanding service which have benefited the Vietnam veterans.
I'm thinking about going back to school. Keeping with the theme of education, we're fortunate here in Leominster to have an American Legion that sends students every year to Boys State. I think we send 7. And that's a program where they go to Stone Hill College, and they learn all about our government. They get elected as state representatives, senators, and they form legislation and do great things. And this year, Leominster had a student go all the way to Washington, D.C. and participated in Boys Nation. And when I say boys, we also have Girls State, and we also send a female student as part of the American Legion program. The AMVETS does an American Essay program. The VFW does a Patriot Pen and Voice of Democracy program. So our veterans are heavily involved in our community. And this year's winner for 2021 for the AMVETS was Tatum Kearney. And I believe Tatum is here. Tatum? So thank you for participating, Tatum, and thank you to our veterans organizations for keeping those education programs alive. All right, now to the fun part of the program. You all heard about Helen Hill. You know Mrs. Helen Hill. She was the Gold Star mother of one of our Vietnam veterans killed in Vietnam. And it was not a good time for Mrs. Hill. You know, our country was extremely divided, but she didn't care. She was out there by God, and she let the world know that she was proud of her son, as she should be. So we created an award in coordination with the mayor's office. All right, the mayor created an award. And she said, Rick, make this happen. Yes, sir. So this year, we have a Vietnam veteran's wife. The Vietnam veteran had a service-connected death, so it was attributed to Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. And this lady herself is, you know, our Vietnam veterans are 75 to 79, 80 years old, so they're no spring chickens themselves. So she just couldn't do her yard anymore. In his yard, when he was still alive, he had lost a leg, so he couldn't really do his yard anymore. So it was probably 5 or 6 years of this yard going without any sort of maintenance at all. So the community got involved, the health department got involved, the neighbors got involved, and they're all like, what can we do, what can we do? So my office with Jolene and Sue, we called around, and I say we every day, called around to all the different landscape companies to see if we could get a landscape company involved, and then, you know, we raised the money through the veterans groups, and one quote was $3,000. And another quote was, you know, $2,000, and one of them was like, yeah, you know, I could do $1,000, but, you know, it'll be a year before I get there. So we put it on Facebook, and we had this gentleman reach out right away, Ken Stone from Nautical Landscape, reached out and says, I can help. I can help. He probably went through 4 or 5 chainsaw blades that day. He filled up his dump truck. We actually had to get a, what do you call it, the biggest dumpster, roll-off dumpster you can get. We had to get one of those. We filled it up. We filled up his dump truck. We filled up my trailer. And we were there all day. The Leominster High School football team, we'll talk about them later. But they came. So we are recognizing Ken Stone, because he was the leader of the pack that day, from Nautical Landscape, with the Helen Hill Patriotic Award. So Ken, come on up. And he's got Ken is also a Coast Guard veteran, and we had a son serving in the Coast Guard who just pulled into Finland on patrol. He was City of Leominster presents the Helen Hill Patriotic Award, given to Ken Stone, Mountain Landscape, your dedication, generosity, and commitment to our veterans by volunteering your time and resources. Thank you for your active contribution to our country and community. And actually, we get to recognize, we have so many great veterans in the community, and we get to recognize one of them every year as being the standout veteran of the year. So somebody that puts themselves out there day after day after day. And the next person that we're going to introduce, you all know who he is, because he's involved in everything. He's involved in the Rotary, he's involved in the American Legion, the Boys State, Girls State. He's involved in the Breakfast of the Bands. In fact, I have tickets on my desk. I'm getting to it. So, John Tate, career sailor in the U.S. Navy, retired as a lieutenant commander, Vietnam veteran. Mr. Tate, come on up. Veteran of the Year, awarded to John Tate. Your outstanding support and dedication to the veterans of our community and your volunteer efforts with the American Legion Boys Girls State program, the Rotary Club, Breakfast of the Bands program, etc. You're a testament to your dedication and professionalism through your selfless service. You're passing on the legacy to future generations. Behind every good man is a good woman, so we would ask his wife to come on up. Come to find out, one of the reasons that Mr. Tate volunteers so much is because she says, get out. That's not true.
Rick has to give me 2 minutes because he demoted me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to say, he's talked about some of these programs at Boys State, things that we do at the VBA, but I just want you to know that this stuff doesn't happen. It happens because we have a whole bunch of people involved. At Boys State, I want to say, I have to thank Major Joe Klesker, U.S. Army, deceased now. He ran this program for many years. John and Bonnie Hamlin, they're here somewhere. They had it before me. And I want to thank John Casey. Is he here today, the commander of our American Legion post? He's probably doing something at the hospital today for other veterans. And last year we had a great bump in publicity because we had an alumni, Lieutenant Francis Arell, Leominster PD retired, Boys State class of 1944. and he hasn't been getting out lately. I wish he could be here. And you mentioned we sent somebody to D.C. It was Nico Navarre, and Nico has been mentored by the Social Studies Department at Leominster High, Darryl Robichaud, who's worked with me for a long time, and Renee Lafayette. Those people are the ones that make these programs work, not just one guy. And you saw everything up here with our VBA post, the presentation to Mrs. Khalil. And again, this is something that we're carrying on the legacy of Richard Early, whose wife Mary is sitting next to my wife. Richard ran our post for 15 years, and he's the one that put all these things together. It's all easy for us now. So, I want to say one more thing. You know, we get these things from the military and the U.S. government, and they mean a lot. But this comes from my fellow veterans here, and it means more. Thank you.
All right, John, let me hold the report for the breakfast of the band. Rotary Club of Leominster in Pittsburgh, November 20th, 8 o'clock in the morning. Leominster, now, this is the best part. The last song performed by the Leominster High School Band, they will transform into their new uniforms. There's an extra bonus for everybody that stays there for the whole breakfast. Am I correct? Is that when you're the last song performed by the Leominster High School Band? So thank you all those that support. It's the best breakfast you'll ever eat. So don't eat all weekend. It's next Sunday the 20th, 8 in the morning till what? 11, John? What's the time?
8 till 11:30.
8 till 11:30.
And if you've got an $8.
And anybody wants to buy tickets? See, this is my shameless plug for John. Anyway, John's right here. Cough up with the $8. $8, that's it. If you've got 10, he doesn't have any change. Just give him 10.
Thank you, Commander Tate, and thank you for all that you do and that you will continue to do. Jolene and I created an award many years ago because we wanted to recognize some people that weren't being recognized any other way. So we came up with the Leominster Veteran Services Outstanding Achievement Award. And we give that award out to somebody that makes the biggest impact to our office in the community. So this year, we're going to be giving it to the Leominster High School boys football team, team number 128. And we're going to have, before I have Coach Devin come up and his team captain, I'm going to tell you just a quick story about the importance of a football team, football program in Leominster High School in my life. I went to high school in 1981. I see a classmate out there somewhere. There she is. I was a swimmer and a diver. I wasn't on the football team. But in 1978 or 1979, I don't remember, we won. I was hanging around with a kid named Rick Peters. We were at Doyle Field. Anybody know Rick Peters? Okay. So we were hanging around with Rick Peters, walking around the football Doyle Field Stadium. And at one end, there was a girl named Ellen. And I was smitten. So I said to Rick, I said, hey, let's go back and talk to that girl Ellen. He'd be like, no. And then I finally convinced him, so we go back and talk to Ellen. So the game's over. So I said, hey, let's go back and talk to that girl Ellen. He's like, no. I'm like, yeah, let's go. So we go back, we find this girl Ellen. So we're talking, and she says, hey, I'm going to my grandmother's house. She said Meme. So for those of you that don't know, Meme is French for ruler of the kingdom. So she said, I'm going to my Meme's house. Do you want to come? So my buddy, my best friend, Rick Peters, says, no. Yes, let's go. So we start walking to Ellen's Meme's house. And as we get closer, I turn and I say, hey, this is your Meme's house. And he said, yeah, that's my sister. And we've been married for 32 years. Leominster High School football game, which we won, and then our first date was the victory dance. So our Leominster football team reached out to us.
Can you show us that dance?
Can't wait.
Ellen, would you like to dance with us?
Yeah. Our first kiss was near the bubbler.
I don't want to hear any more.
So the Leominster High School football team, when they seen our Facebook post, Jolene's Facebook post, they said, hey, we want to help. I don't think they really understood what they were getting into. We were there all day, and it was a team effort. They brought their own tools. They brought the most positive attitude you could ever imagine. And these group of kids worked. They worked. In fact, Ken Stone from Nautical Landscape said afterwards, I would hire any one of those boys. So if I could have the coach come on up with your team captains and receive this award. Veteran Services Outstanding Achievement Award. Leominster High School Football Program, Team Number 128. Your outstanding support to the Leominster Veteran Service Office for volunteering your time to help on a massive yard cleanup for the surviving spouse of a Vietnam veteran. Your selfless service, teamwork, and efforts are a true testament to our community values for generations to follow.
Thank you very much for this distinguished award, and to thank you all those who served and sacrificed, heartfelt thank you from our football program. I'd like the rest of the football program that's here today to stand as well. We're very lucky to have an outstanding group of young men and coaches who are here today as well. They didn't answer this call for recognition or praise or anything. They did it because it was the right thing to do. And that's something that we talk about all the time. So it's really about the players. We put it out there, didn't make it mandatory, made it optional, and we had such a great response. Like we said, just a great energy, attitude for everybody that was here to help. It was really, a selfless day. I'm very proud of our program and the type of young men that we have right now. Thank you very much.
You got one job left, beat Pittsburgh. This time we're going to have a musical selection from our award-winning Leominster High School band. So every year, we get a request to replace people's medals, military medals they earned during service, or they simply were never issued their medals. And we coordinate with our congressman's office, and he normally loves to make these presentations, but he can't today. So we are recognizing today with the medals Sergeant First Class Edward Saunders. And if I could have his son Jason and his wife Kay come on up. If you So Sergeant First Class Saunders served in the U.S. Army. He was in the intelligence field. He was an instructor at Devon's for a short time. I think where he met his lovely bride. And I'm going to tell you what his medals are.
Oh my gosh.
It is a Bronze Star Medal, a Meritorious Service Medal with an Oak Leaf cluster. That means he has 2 of those. An Army Commendation Medal with 2 Oak Leaf clusters. That means he has 3 of those. An Army Good Conduct Medal with 5 clusters. That means he's got a lot of them. National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Service Medal, City of Leominster Vietnam Medal, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, Republic of Vietnam Cross the Gallantry, and Expert Rifle Badge. And we thank him for his service. And unless you were really, really good at counting cards, you did not want to play pinochle with him. He remembered every card. All right, at this time, the highlight of our program. Again, we remember, right, Carter Park, marching off to Lexington and Concord. We've been at it ever since. So our National Guard and Reserve, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, women, they're not always recognized, you know, because they did maybe 6 years, 1 weekend a month kind of thing, but that's a hell of a commitment. 6 years, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. You have no idea until you try it. I used to train reserve Marines my last duty station in New Hampshire, and it was something every single weekend, a birthday, a graduation, a wedding, and it was hard to make, I had to do a weekend, but it was hard for the citizen soldiers to make it, because they had real lives too, police officers, students, lawyers. They were incredible. Their sacrifice is phenomenal. So, we are going to start with recognizing them one name at a time. When we call your name, if you're here, come up. If at the end, if you served in the National Guard and Reserves and your name is not on the list or didn't register, we're going to recognize you also. So, if the service member's not here and the family member's here, then we ask the family members to come. Yeah, maybe we go down here. So, Sergeant Major, you'll help to hand out these out. And the mayor, so you don't have to climb up the stairs. So, come over here and be my son. It'll be funny. So the first one we are recognizing, this is a City of Leominster recognition of service. And I'm only going to read one. In recognition for your contribution to the national security, protecting liberty and freedom with your service in the National Guard and Reserve Forces. We must, we will, and we can be free. So first, this is no special order. Kim Edward Brown. Okay, no, Kim Edward Brown. James L. Campbell, Jr. Richard F. Dondero. Raymond T. Boyer, Sr. I think Mr. Boyer served in the Civil War.
Don't you tell him, he's in good enough shape, he could activate you. He's got a smaller waistline than me, trust me.
Matthew Fowler. William F. Gardner. Dennis T. Lavoie. Hold on, both. Ken P. Lavoie. Lawrence McNeil. I want to say Chief Master Sergeant McNeil had over 30-something years in the Air Force. 40 years. How about that? Joseph E. Olzak. James Pilata Jr.
You can come up, come on up.
Ralph J. Pulteney. Commander John B. Tate. Peter Zumwalt. I don't believe he's here, but Robert A. Salvatelli. Lieutenant Colonel Romano. Head of our Emergency Management Department, Colonel Arthur F. Paul. All right, who is anybody that served in the National Guard or Reserves that I missed, that are here in the audience? Mr. Souza, come on up. Did we miss anyone else? Army Reserve, National Guard? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. So if I could have now, everybody that has children actively serving in the military, stand up. Thank you. Hopefully they stay safe.
St. Cecilia's tonight. Speaking of memory, St. Cecilia's has their church bazaar tonight. And if you don't get there quick, the potatoes are all gone. They've been working for months, cutting these potatoes in the summer. There's a 5 o'clock tonight, and then tomorrow at 11. So don't miss this, like one of the best church bazaars ever, right? She's out, that's all that.
All right, I know you've been here a long time, so join me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of this program. And thank you for every day helping to honor and recognize our veterans. Because let's face it, they help keep us free. All right, at this time, our closing prayer, Richard Roper.
As we depart, let our darkness, O God, and by your great mercy, defend us from all peril and the dangers of life. Direct us all in our doings in the future, as well as the continued help that in all our work, begun, continued, and ended in thee, you will honor both yourself and our country. Amen.
Stay standing. We are going to have at this time a rifle salute from our 15th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry and our Leominster Rifle Detail. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our Veterans Day ceremony with all of our veterans invited up to the Leominster Veterans Center. Counselors, of course, invited. And our meal at Veterans Center today is catered by Life Care Center